chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.
We're live.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody here. So tonight, Alex will not be joining us, but we do have the illustrious Dave, the epic Dan, and the awesome Blunty, as well as myself tonight. So hopefully we can make that up. I'm going to skip ahead to an article because we were just talking about this before. Let me get my, let's see, present. Bear with me for a second, folks. All right. I think we're ready to go. All right. So Purdue just hosted its third drone racing championship. And while this is not something new for them, they hosted it in 2017 and again in 2018. However, with multi-GP, they held it again just a few days ago. And the 2024 championship featured 62 pilots from 18 schools. The championship arena, described as a long technical course, consisted of 20 obstacles that pilots twist and turn through at about 75 miles an hour. Let me get my reading skills up to par here. Sorry, guys. Pilots enter heats where time trials are conducted to determine the fastest consecutive 3 laps around the course. Throughout Sunday, a bracket was formed, and Sunday, the elimination championship was held once 16 pilots remained. And news, Alex and one of his friends took second and third place at this event. So
that's why he's not
Alex.
here tonight. He's still celebrating. That's it.
He might still be celebrating. So that's epic. And congratulations to Alex. A well-deserved win. I know he works really hard. I'm hoping he did that with his own designed race drone. Definitely
I would assume so.
Some good PR. I would assume so too. But he's got a great drone that he designed with some cool features on it that he's been working off and on for several years now, I think, to develop. So
I like the last line in that. With digital video, pilots can fly with full HD color. Just, I don't hear HD color. Anyway, and I'm also assuming they're flying with not DJI, but HD0.
Yeah, I would imagine. I think this is all kind of open class. It doesn't really say that there was a a
At least I
set
know
class.
Alex flies HD0 if I remember right.
Yes, he
That's right.
does. Yep.
Yeah, I could date myself, Dan, and when we used to brag about the megapixel display at 32-bit color, and the year was 1992.
Sounds
Was
about
an
right.
Well, it's
engineering
like I was
graphics
watching some of
application.
those some of the old videos of when countries first transitioned to color TV, like. But anyway, so it does say the Collegiate Drone Association has certain class limitations on the size of frame, propellers, propeller tips, battery, and other nitty-gritty technical requirements. However, teams are encouraged to customize their drone and build exactly how they want, said Jordan Kruger, the president of the Collegiate Drone Association. The drones are all home built, they're DIY. There are some companies that make pre-built drones, but basically all these guys are taking the standard carbon fiber frame, they're putting motors on it based on their preferences. They choose their flight controller, which translates stick movements into drone flight, and their camera system. So qualification courses vary throughout the season, but the championship course is designed and released only in a week's notice. Teams can simulate flying the championship course using a computer program called Velocidrone, or a game, or
And now,
a
if Alex
simulator.
was here, we'd have to ask him like, how much practice did you do in a sim, if any at all? And did you just show
I'm sure
up
he
and try it?
practiced. Yeah, I'm sure he practiced. He's
So-
definitely.
We've also learned that this was Alex's third time on the podium in this series, and as everyone here knows, we're very proud of Alex, and he's an engineering student at York, Pennsylvania University, and that's the school he was representing. And I believe he's now a senior in dual mechanical and electrical engineering.
Absolutely. So definitely, I'm sure a hard-earned win for him, and definite congratulations out to him on that. So, all right. So we all know my fascination with space drones. So thanks, Dan, for this article and finding it for me. So we've all heard of its Perseverance, I believe. Is a little drone on Mars that no longer flies, but far exceeded its
Ingenuity.
Yeah.
ingenuity. Thank you. Perseverance was the ground drone, or the ground rover. I think it did a total of 71 flights. Was planned to do 5. So definitely a good thing there. So NASA has confirmed its Dragonfly rotorcraft mission to Saturn's organic rich moon of Titan. So it's they're saying NASA is saying Dragonfly is a spectacular science mission with broad community interest, and we're excited to take the next steps on this mission, said Nikki Fox, Associate Administrator of the Science Mission Directorate at NASA headquarters in Washington. Exploring Titan will push the boundaries of what we can do with rotorcraft outside of Earth. In 2023, the mission successfully passed all success criteria of its preliminary design review. At that time, however, the mission was asked to develop an updated budget and schedule to fit in the current funding environment. This updated plan was presented and conditionally approved in November of 2023, pending the outcome of the fiscal year 2025 budget process. It's always fun when your science projects are held up by government funding, right?
It's got to be so frustrating to work at NASA when you're trying to do long-term planning, and every 4 years you just get, well, probably every 2 years you just get totally off the rails, depending on who gets elected and who changes their mind on who gets what funding.
Yeah, 100%. So the total life cycle cost of this project is $3.35 billion. Just in case anybody was wondering, that's billion with a B. I don't even know what that looks like. This reflects a cost increase of about 2 times the proposed cost and a delay of more than 2 years. So the rotorcraft, which is targeted to arrive at Titan in 2034, so hopefully we're all still around and we can talk about this in 10 years. We'll fly to dozens of promising locations on the moon, looking for prebiotic chemical processes common on both Titan and the early Earth before life developed.
Well, I'd love to see those images, but I don't want to wait 10 years.
I also I wonder if they're talking about 3.35 billion for the entire Like we got to get there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Or
I think so.
it
Yeah.
is.
Because like Perseverance or Ingenuity was only like $80 million, but the whole project was like 2.8 billion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, this one's got more propellers, so it's got to be more expensive, and hopefully,
I think it's kind of interesting that
hopefully
they
they can
chose to do that,
survive.
right? Because like the thing now, the one they put up there has 2 propellers on it, and now
Mm-hmm.
they've got 4 sets of 2 propellers to worry about. I wonder if they like. I mean, do you do self-writing things when you try to do this? Do you like, I don't know. What have you learned? I wonder if they've learned too little because were too successful, or if they're going to take away the proper like information from this. Like, because it seems really ballsy to go, okay, now we're going to have 8 motors, and now we still don't have a way to flip if we break. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that works out, right?
So I'm wondering if the 8 motors, I'm hoping, and just a design process thought on this, if they design some
Yeah.
redundancy within those
You
8
have to.
motors.
I mean, they
Yeah.
have to have, right? Yeah.
So
it also
like
says
maybe
it's
it'll
a-
work on 4, and then you've got
Yeah.
4 additional ones.
It's an artist
Yeah.
concept, so who knows how close that is to actual reality.
Well,
Right.
100%, but they do say it is going to have 8 rotors, and so
Maybe they could
It's
get
funny, though,
Red Bull to help them out.
So there is a sentence in here that makes me question things, though. It says Dragonfly marks the first time NASA will fly a vehicle for science on another planetary body. So I have
Somebody didn't do
questions.
their research,
Did
and this
you
is a
just
NASA
Isn't this
article.
the whole
other
point
one?
of this article? Yeah.
And this is from NASA. This is not like a news agency.
So- Are they do that? Do they consider? I guess what do you say? Flying a vehicle for science. What does that mean?
maybe
Right.
maybe
It was
Ingenuity
recreational on
just
Mars. It was just for fun.
maybe.
Ingenuity took pictures. It didn't take samples. So is there something like separate with the science there? I don't know.
Maybe
a
they
different
just
fun.
considered that one like test mission or test flight, right?
Maybe it was a
Yeah.
different budget allocation.
Oh, they just wanted to market as recreational, so they didn't have to get a license.
That's it.
No, those pesky Martians always requiring licenses.
Yeah.
All right, so this will be cool. All right, so this is got an ad. So this comes from Inside Unmanned Systems. UAvionics secures FAA contract to enhance C-band frequency management for UAS. So this was if I'm not mistaken, a work group from the DAC or the AC or whatever, the non-existent thing anymore, talking about C-band. I do remember that. So UAvionics has been awarded a broad agency. Let me blow this up a little bit. Broad agency announcement contract by the FAA to expand C-band frequency management for uncrewed aircraft systems, command and control communications across regional operations. This initiative is set to facilitate the simultaneous and harmonious operations of multiple drones within the same airspace, thus advancing the commercial use of UAS in various sectors, including medical delivery, emergency response, and consumer services.
Wow.
So previously, the use of C-band for UAS command and control required extensive regulatory approval from both the FCC and FAA, making broad applications impractical. However, the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2018 has directed an evaluation of this spectrum for drone use, identifying 5030 to 5091 megahertz as a viable licensed C-band range.
That was Section 374 in the 2018 FAA Reauthorization Act. How do I
Yeah.
know that? I led the subgroup in the ACT on this topic.
I
Yeah.
thought that didn't really go anywhere, did it?
How can you say that?
Maybe I'm misremembering, but a lot of those acts didn't really go anywhere.
In fact, the FAA's formal response, it was in fact a great piece of work. We got people all over the industry involved, and it was very critical of the FAA, the FCC, and the scientific office of the administration. And the response back from the FAA, formal response to the DAC at that time, was that they accepted all of our recommendations. So, and now it's a scant 4 years later, there's some action on it. That's so.
So, correct
Yeah.
me if I'm wrong. We went through these frequencies and figured they were outside FPV standard usage frequencies for the most part. Yes,
I'm
Yeah,
not
it
it's
looks
sure.
just
like
like
it's a
right
very
below.
low 5 gigahertz.
Yeah.
So the part of the issue was that, and and hopefully there was no protected spectrum for small UAS.
Hmm.
And the directive of Section 374 was for the FCC and FAA to get together and define protected spectrum, because whether you realize it or not, we are all flying Part 107, 44809 recreational on hobby spectrum. So it's
Hmm.
shared spectrum, and it's open, and it's not regulated. So if this is protected spectrum, this is a big deal, and it's very
Yeah.
positive for UAS safety.
Yeah, and this is definitely going to be protected spectrum for commercial. So, and this would for beyond visual line of sight flights, deliveries, medical, all those different sectors. So, yeah.
Good stuff.
So UAVionics has really got their foot in a lot of doors right now with some counter UAS. They've got
Remote ID modules for
mhm.
the bargain basement price of, I think it's $300 for a remote ID broadcast module.
Something obscene, yeah. So definitely a commercial facing company. But
Yeah, yeah.
all right, so I asked for this a couple weeks ago, and it seems like somebody's providing a little bit of something. So this is Anzu Robotics. They are out of Texas, and they have announced an entrance to the U.S. drone market with the launch of the Raptor and Raptor T industrial aircraft as a DJI alternative. So, funny story here, from what I'm gathering, is Anzu's drones are based on the DJI Mavic 3 Enterprise, meaning you get pretty much all the same specs as a DJI Mavic 3 through a technology transfer deal from DJI with software that is written by Aloft. Um, so it's they're
Really?
basically, yeah. So you get the 4x3 CMOS sensor, 20 megapixel wide camera, hybrid zoom, 9-mile range, 45 minutes of flight time, an optional RTK module. $5,100 for the Raptor, and a Raptor T will sell for $7,600. And just in case you had $7,600 lying around. So Anzu has done a technology transfer with DJI that allows it to leverage all the hardware specs and engineering innovation that users love. However, the software driving these drones is entirely developed in the US through a collaboration with Aloft Technologies, a company known for its work with the FAA in flight planning, airspace restriction information. Aloft also powers more than 2/3 of all LANS authorizations in the US.
Right. And
Um,
plug for our friends, that's AirAware and Air Control. And for
mhm.
recreational operators, the applications are free. So thank you, John Hergrains and his company.
Absolutely. So, to distance itself further from China related trade and geopolitical tensions, nearly all the components and final assembly of Raptor drones are done in Malaysia. The completed drone hardware is then sent to Anzu's Austin facility, where firmware is installed and quality control measures are conducted. Instead of DJI's flight app, Raptor drones are powered by the Aloft Air Control app in compliance with the FAA's regulations on the use of the National Airspace System, and with Aloft as its development partner, pre-flight checklists that ensure safe and legal flights, instant LANS authorization, and other vital fleet and pilot management capabilities are already built into the system. All the data captured by the drones is stored locally on the SD card of the drone itself, minimizing unauthorized access during transmission. Additionally, all flight data is stored by Aloft is encrypted in transit and at rest using AES 256-bit encryption, a robust security standard that ensures confidentiality and integrity of data.
This is so stupid.
Please say more.
Like, I can't be more angry about something. Like, let's all do political bullshit for 4 years, make up a fake anti-China sentiment, get rid of all the tests that has ever been done on DJI equipment, on all these drones to prove that nothing's been happening, all the transparency that DJI has been done. You can test the fucking packets that leave the drones. We can guarantee this does not happen on any drone that has ever existed from DJI. Yet, let's make a fake company that just makes the same fucking hardware and puts new software in it that has no point to pump up all these companies that are making money off of contracts with the government. It's garbage. It's a military industrial complex at work. And it's so stupid.
For all we know, that software is doing exactly the same things that they're claiming DJI software was doing.
It's probably worse. It's much worse. They're not $1 billion company. They haven't done all the work to prove this over 10, 20, 30 years to make sure it's all correct. It's going to have errors and backdoors and holes and confusion and software updates that don't work, and everything's going to brick half the time. That's how all this shit works. It's just garbage. We're making up garbage through politics, and it's just so annoying. This is all fake to begin with, and now we're making a new fake company off the hardware that we said we can't use because it's got embedded technology, but it's okay because we're making the software layer, even though the software layer was already safe.
Yeah, it's the same hardware.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave, didn't DJI like do a clean room rebuild of their software to try to do the same thing?
They did it for the Department of the Interior. Yeah.
Right, that's correct. Yeah, and it was shortly thereafter viewed as still problematic, and the interior drones were all grounded. So yeah, that was a very unfortunate judgment.
And here's the thing, and this is the thing that I think on Blunty's point is that there's a lot of U.S. drone companies that have taken advantage of this situation. So, and in doing so, have locked their technology and their drones and their hardware and their software behind a commercial / DoD initiative. So, I mean, you've got Teal Drones, whose primary contract is DoD. You've got Skydio, who has pretty much closed their recreational. I mean, not pretty much. They have their recreational division or their consumer facing division, and it's all commercial. So there's drones. I mean, DJI is still the go-to for people who want to do photography. I mean, it's plain and simple.
Yeah, this company just figured out a way. This company just figured out a way that they don't have to make their own shitty hardware. Right? Like all the other companies are making their own shitty hardware that costs 10 times as much. Instead, they're using DJI hardware that costs 3 times as much because it's DJI's hardware.
Well, it's a spec. So yeah, I don't think. Well, I don't share your vehemence against this, Blunty. To me,
this would not exist unless we made a stupid law that doesn't need to exist. That's why this exists.
I agree completely with that. And so this is so it's. What would be really interesting to understand is, so how far back into the firmware does the spec go? So they've provided a third party with a hardware specification, and that means that they're probably going to provide a stable hardware base for some period of time. Otherwise, the software has to be altered all the time. And so my point is that there's probably a fair amount of firmware coming from DJI, and then as Dan would know, so where does it draw the line between firmware and software that's running this thing? So it's a clever end around, and certainly I think. If you got Vic Moss on the line, he'd say that it's a bad idea to ban DJI drones until we have a viable alternative, and we don't have a viable alternative. This is an interesting end run on the as an alternative.
It's just frustrating to hear, like, why until we have an alternative? Like, well, why does that part of the conversation? Like, why do we need an alternative? It's just, this is all bullshit, and it doesn't need to exist.
You would say, why can't we just use DJI?
We should be able to use. There's no reason. There's zero reason.
Right. Right. Yeah.
It's just frustrating that this is all made up. It's like it's if there was a reason for this, it would be cool, but there's not. This is It comes out of nothing. This is technology developed for nothing. There's no benefit. They're going to be worse. They will guaranteed be worse for years until they figure out how to do all this stuff. They're working on hardware that they didn't even pick. They've picked a bunch of engineers that have never done this stuff to now learn all this stuff from a company who's giving them stuff with whatever layers you're talking about, right? And we don't even know. How many hooks do they have in? What happens when they run into issues with things they're trying to do? How many features are going to be disabled or not disabled? Like it's just, and then they go, oh, well, we actually can't do this because the hardware we got does this and we don't have a license for this. And like, it's all frustrating because it's extra layers that make things worse for no reason other than BS that we know isn't real.
Just makes me think of like, well, if you can't beat the competition, make the competition illegal. Like,
yes, that's exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens.
Right.
So
they sure like their army green color though.
The different, yeah, like I said, the difference between Anzu and the other companies is the other companies have bad hardware that costs 10, 20 times as much, right? Skydio is selling a $25,000 drone that can't fly indoors. So, like, you know, if they're using hardware that they know is good, a design that they know is good, at least they have that layer. So this will be a more viable solution probably. But then how much is the software going to mess up that interaction with the good hardware and the good chips and the good connection, right? Like,
sure does look like a green version of a DJI controller.
Right. It is. It is.
It's because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Let's show me the Raptor. Here we go.
It's just a Mavic.
What?
Looks like a Mavic.
Yeah.
Mavic 3. Actually,
So,
Mavic
yeah.
3, yeah.
And then what happens when the next version of a DJI drone comes out? Are they working in tandem with Anzu so they can create a US version at the same time and release them at the same time, or is it always going to be a generation or two behind?
All right, that's why I said I talked about the stability and where do you create the user interface that you maintain stability for some period of time, while the two can, you should be able to advance the hardware layer including firmware and the application layer simultaneously and asynchronously, and now you're getting into enterprise IT level of application management. I mean, these are clever companies. It's certainly doable today.
Well, and here's the thing is like, I mean, there's got to be, if we're going to go ahead and ban these, what is the alternative going to be, right? And I'm with Blunty. Like, I don't believe we should be banning anything. But at the same time, what is the alternative going to be? Who's going to step up and cater to the recreational user, to the folks looking to do regular aerial photography, not, enterprise level stuff like this, and provide this type of hardware? Why we're putting the cart before the horse? Characteristically, I mean, this is what happens with our government, but and people are trying to catch up, but this is not the way. This is seems kind of goofy to me. So
yeah,
sorry to inspire rage, Blunty.
This is the way when you know that the rules aren't actually real. This is the way to do it when you know that there's no actual reason for the ban, right? Like you could hide things on a hardware ASIC, and then that could exist in the firmware layer that they're still going to have. Like, this isn't real security. This is fake security, whatever you call it. There's a term for it, but the security of theater, whatever it is,
security theater.
Security theater, right? Like, this is what this is, to make people think it's got AES and all this stuff, and like, great, but you still have no idea what it's running on the lower layer that you can't see, like that you're doing hooks into, right? And, you have a big blob there.
Meat City is saying in YouTube's like, well, what if they're just rebranding DJI's OS and doing nothing but slapping "Made in the US" sticker on it? I don't know. Do we know that they're doing more than that? Like, the article says that they're rewriting it, and that it's obviously we can see that it's talking to a different app on your phone, but I don't know. Maybe
here's the thing: it's like, to a certain level, I mean, I would put a large amount of faith in Aloft and John Hergrains that they're doing the right thing to their layer, if that makes sense. I would definitely put that. He's a very smart man. He's done a lot for the industry. And I don't think he would jump into this blind, but at the same time, again, there's the layers underneath that you just don't see. So
I'd be curious to know if this kind of hardware, and I would hope it does, like that actually has military applications or gets DoD contracts or whatever, goes through some other level of vetting than just saying you filled out a form.
Like we've
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
with most of the
Yeah.
FAA's stuff.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, and as you know, I was headed, Meet articulated it better than me. What if the entire software layer is simply rebranded DJI code, and certainly, if the appropriate vetting in the technology is you do a source code scan, and so entirely likely that whomever is developing this has access to the source, and then you run a bit by bit source code scan. I mean, so you can determine, is there some nefarious code, and it's, source code scans are done as a matter of course in every software company acquisition.
But is that, I guess the question is that something that gets like, is that something they will provide in a black box to a government employee, and a third party contractor will actually vet that with a source code scan, right? Yeah. Okay.
So it'll be
Yeah,
really
but
interesting to see
totally doable.
in the long term who is against this and who's for it, if this continues to be something that people are trying to ban or not ban.
Yeah,
I guess that would tell us something.
And it's also going to describe whether the price elasticity is such that what sounds like a 2x price point is sustainable in this market. That's a pretty steep number.
Mm-hmm.
Two to 3x, I would say, is my swag at that number. It would be worth it to do a feature by feature and a price comparison, because and then to see if the thing sells at all. Josh, I didn't see. Is there an availability on this?
Let's see. Let me go back to their website. I'm not sure. It might be like by call because they're so.
Well, there's buttons saying get Raptor.
Yeah, it's an email. So this is definitely going to be commercial enterprise, level stuff. So you always know it's going to be interesting when it's just email us.
That's right. We'll call you. So, Mr. Cook, would you like to buy 6?
Right. Yeah.
Availability.
Yeah,
2024.
yeah. Let's see.
There's a phone number at the top. You can just call them up.
It'll be available sooner than the 2023 FAA reauthorization act.
They have a cybersecurity disclosure for you, Blunty, just in case you're wondering, and pen test results. So, coming soon. They haven't released that yet.
Pen test is good. Okay, so the pen test is probably just against the Aloft code. That would be external penetration testing, which is I think that's not what Blunty's talking about. What he's more interested in is, so can someone please verify that there is not a backdoor in this, that there is not third-party code that's nefarious, that there's not.
I don't believe that any of that exists anyway, but we need to know that they've done the work to know that it's not there if you're going through this whole rigmarole to do this thing, right?
Right.
Well, and here's the thing is, like, just because certain data doesn't have access to a server doesn't mean data can't be transmitted in other ways. And
Right.
I mean, if anybody's kept up with like mesh systems, or there's ways of transmitting text data bursts through RF, through even just CB radios, ham radios, that kind of stuff, where you can send data bursts that will translate into text and images and all that kind of stuff through mesh systems and whatnot. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that can be happening. So, and it doesn't have to happen at a software level. So,
yeah, and one of the documents that you're looking for, Blunty, is a COO, certificate of originality, and it's largely complied with by the United States and Western countries. So Russia and Asian countries, notably China, not a lot of respect for COOs. So it's your concerns on the software veracity are valid, very valid.
let's see.
I just wonder, like, I'm concerned that this will, and concern is relative because I'm only concerned because we did all this, right? This is all happening, right? I don't think it should happen in the first place, but I'm just saying, like, if we look at this as a thing that's going to happen, my concern is that this will be the same as remote ID, and it won't actually matter. None of the modules will be actually vetted. None of the systems will be actually checked. There'll be a third-party organization that checks a box and says this is a thing, and then they'll just sell them and say they're encrypted.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sure that the end-to-end encryption will be legit. What did you just send in that end-to-end encryption?
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah.
All right.
What did you encode of DJI's information in those packets that you didn't realize you encoded? Yeah.
All right, we'll move on. I think this is a little bit of a sore subject tonight, so apologies on that. So this isn't the first time I think we've talked about this. I think the last time was several years back, but this was provided by Rob, I believe. An autonomous drone that uses power lines to self-recharge has been trialed, but the potential pitfalls are catastrophic. Yeah, you think it might be a little rough. Researchers from the University of Southern Denmark wanted to solve the problem of drone flights being limited by battery life, so they built a prototype that could grip onto power lines. They employed a commercial Taro 650 Sport carbon fiber drone and customized it with an electric quadcopter propulsion system, an autopilot module, 7,000 milliamp hour lithium polymer battery, and a Raspberry Pi 4B microcomputer.
Yeah.
The drone can self-detect its battery running low and make a beeline to a power line by using its camera and millimeter wave radar system to detect where the closest one is. The drone approaches the power line from beneath and uses a pair of arms to grip the cable. Engadget reports that an inductive charger pulls power from the line, and once the battery is full, the gripper releases and the drone continues its flight.
So it hangs on and then turns off the motors while it's charging, and then it like lets go and takes off again.
How do you get? So what's the license to get to charge off a power line? That's what I was.
So anyone who has worked with large power, and I had the pleasure of working with a fellow who is a high power electrical engineer, not differentiated from a high powered. No, he was a brilliant guy, worked for Duke Electric, and it's so dangerous for a human to be that close to a power line. So this is amazing that, I mean, the shielding that they have to put around the printed circuit boards, the motors,
Sure.
the battery. So this is like, is this practical? I'm not really sure, unless you're a power line company and you want to inspect your own power lines. But it's clever as all heck. I mean, these young engineers, this is an impressive piece of work. This thing must be just dead when it lands.
One of the cool things about it is definitely that it can find and snap on, because I think one of the things we've seen before is ones that are built onto the line.
Yes.
And the fact that and the problem with that is, like, at least with a lot of the tower designs I've seen, like with the line workers and stuff, you have to move, like you have to move off the line to move to the other section past the tower. And so if this can just like fly around the tower, snap back on, and just go through the whole network like that, I mean, it's certainly a huge improvement for companies who need to do inspections and stuff.
Yeah, that's what they designed this for, is for power line inspection. So it says they did a test, kept the drone in the air for 2.5 hours, charging its battery 5 times. So they say, obviously, playing with power lines is extremely dangerous, and if something went wrong, say the drone damages a power line, then thousands of people could be without electricity. Yeah.
Can that? I would be interested to know, can that even do enough damage, right?
I bet not. I mean, it just
it's
vaporized.
It's not going to be big enough to cross across to another line, and it's not going to be like,
And I assume the
only thing
propellers
is,
aren't
like, I
strong
think-
enough to damage the wire or anything.
right.
Yeah, about the only thing I could see happening is it takes out like an insulator or something like that. But I mean,
Oh, that's a good, decent point.
it just depends on that. I mean, that really just, I think, and I'm not, a line specialist by any stretch, but I think that just reduces the efficiency of the power transmission, but up to a certain point. But I'm sure that could obviously cause some problems. So I'm just guessing here. So, all right. last but not least, I thought this was kind of cool. So Raspberry Pi FPV Monitor shares drone flights in real time. So I didn't know this existed. That there's a fork of Linux that is meant to pull video from your DJI goggles, and this gentleman, I'm SEII FPV, created a Raspberry Pi with a screen, designed an enclosure for it, powered it off of a power bank, to pull video feed from his DJI goggles, to share with a bystander or a spotter or whatever the case may be. So um, he's got it with a 5-inch LCD screen inside of a custom case, and he's using the Raspberry Pi keyboard controllers to operate as a mouse and input. There's a video on it of him designing it. Get rid of the ads here. So him designing it in the software. So I'll play this. It's kind of a fast pace. I don't know if it translates well over video, but
Yeah, for people who know, this is DigiView. So we've covered DigiView a lot on the news before. This is just a Raspberry Pi that uses DigiView. But
yes,
it's definitely a smooth option for that, for sure.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, little 5-inch case for it with a Raspberry Pi, screen built into it, and powered by a power bank. I mean, super portable. Really only limited by what you can power it with. So I'll skip ahead a little bit. It shows him setting up DigiView and going through all that, and then showing the final result where he's piping video. Let me see here. Piping video from his DJI goggles. Yeah.
Like
So
he's got the little fan there to keep everything cool while he's not flying.
So
it's interesting to me is that this is a reasonable level of performance for an FPV drone, considering that there's a lot of overhead. Yes,
It's
running
not flyable.
on a Raspberry Pi. Oh, is it too?
It's too latent to be
lurch?
flyable. Yeah. None of
Yeah.
these are flyable because they have the HDMI latency, the decoding latency, and the display latency. As far as I know, I haven't seen any. Like, I've tried to use DigiView, and there's a couple different apps like this that were created by different people. There's even the one that's charged that I can't remember the name of currently, that he charges for a service that does this sort of automatically and flashes it all into a Pi and stuff. But yeah, none of them
I just
are
don't
like,
see it running quickly enough on the PID loops. That's a
yeah. Well, this is all meant to be. This is all meant to be like
observer,
a view for the second party or HDMI out to a TV.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, cool technology for things like races. If you could provide these for some of the spectators, or
this is essentially a free, like a different way to do HDMI out than having the DJI
cheaper
big
version
smart
of
controller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or it's a way to get the video out if you don't have like a smartphone with the Fly app. And this is also, I think DigiView only works. Maybe it got updated to work with goggles too, but I think it only works with V2, or at one point it only did work with V2 video.
So yeah, definitely a cool little thing. So I just wanted to bring that out. That was a pretty cool little innovation that he created here. So, and with that, that's all I've got. I think I'm done causing chaos for tonight. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I had a couple things. One is the here I can if I may share quick.
Yeah.
So I've talked about the Drone Advisory Council. This is a group that have gotten together, and I'll describe that in a moment. But I've talked about this in broad references a couple of times. If you look at how can you solve a remote ID, you can be compliant with a freia broadcast module or standard remote ID. The problem in English is that standard remote ID is required for all recreational small UAS that are sold as ready to fly. So that means that the producer of the small UAS has the responsibility to integrate standard remote ID into small UAS. So standard remote ID, as everyone knows, the difference from a broadcast module and standard is standard remote ID has a dynamic location of the GCS or ground control station or the transmitter / controller broadcasting from the aircraft, and on power on self test, if the standard remote ID subsystem fails, it has the authority to prevent the aircraft from taking off. The two major differences between broadcast and standard remote ID. So there's the organization that is the Drone Advisory Council is aloft. Heard them tonight. Influential Drones, good buddies from Jersey Pilot Institute, drone service providers, Vic Moss and us. And it's our objective to work with the FAA and then on to Congress likely to try to solve some of the problems that we're talking about. So this in techno speak or the jargon that we work with is what we're trying to solve. And so we're doing a number of surveys with folks around the industry, manufacturers, and we'll be writing up a series of recommendations. And as this is germinating, I'll be happy to share this with this group, and we'll welcome comments as we move this along. Don't want to bore the group too much with this. It's a little dense, but go ahead.
Is there a good like 1 or 2 sentence layman summary of objectives? Like, what is the actual objective? Like, is the objective just to see what's going on and then make it cleaner for people to work with?
The objective is to get a resolution to create recommendations and to the FAA that they can create some probably a period of exception for smaller manufacturers, in as much as smaller manufacturers are really the parties that are being damaged by standard remote ID right now. So we will have some crystal clear recommendations to solve this problem.
Correct to say one of the problems that they're trying to solve is the case of you personally building a drone to fly in a Part 107 operation. Let's say you want to build a Cinelifter and go fly it for a movie. Today, you'd have to build a Cinelifter with standard remote ID, which just isn't feasible.
Right. And if you were to do that, you would then have to, if you built it and you figured that out, which is non-trivial, you would then have to get a declaration of compliance, just like we did for broadcast modules for that aircraft. And if you changed that aircraft and created another model but used the same standard remote ID, you'd have to get another certification for that aircraft. So it is extraordinarily cumbersome to anyone building either a small number or even a moderate number of small UAS.
It's as if the rules didn't cover all the cases, and now we've got to figure out like what how to fix that. Yeah, 100%. So that's a great good summary there. I think that makes sense. Like, let's fix all the in betweens that don't get caught correctly, right?
Thank you. And one other, we're doing and so we thanked Blunty and Joshua Bardwell for the work that they did to have Alex and me on Joshua's channel and talk about the work that we're doing with freia applications. And this is a sincere thanks. This is not a New York snarky, sarcastic
thanks for all
view.
the extra work.
Right. we sincerely are appreciative, because this is, much like Josh Bixler has said, we're trying to provide freias wherever we can, and where we can't, that's why we worked with a flight test on the FTEZID, and why we're so proud of the MRID guys, Brian and Ken, for producing their broadcast module. So if you can't do a freia, there's a reasonable solution for broadcast modules. I just want to mention we probably will append our applications. And so for those folks, if you want us to process a freia, FAA recognized identification area application for you, check out the contact us on our website. And then also please look at our checklist of information. And I would, the note that we're probably going to add is please pay special attention to the GPS coordinates of your FRIA. We need them in a clockwise sequential fashion with 5 decimal places. You
And
think
that's
I'm
not our
kidding?
requirement. That's the
You think I'm
FAA's.
kidding? I'm not kidding. The other
Not
is to
6,
please,
not 4, but
not
5.
5. That's the magic hand grenade. So please also pay some special attention to the purpose and need, because we're getting a lot of applications where people are describing nicely. Yeah, we fly here. It's a great bunch. That's not the rationale why we need an exception. It's a good description of what you're doing, but we're asking the FAA to grant us an exception to a rule. So what is it that this rule puts you out that causes harm or damage, or reduces the number of people? Maybe kids are there and they can't afford broadcast modules, so it reduces kids to fly. That is a legit reason and rationale. So please spend a little time there, and we'll go back and forth with you before we submit an application. And we really appreciate the response. As we've asked folks, hey, would you mind tweaking this a little bit? Everyone that we've gotten back to is like, yeah, sure. And so we really appreciate that openness and that great attitude. And Josh, that's all I had.
Okay.
I was going to say about the accuracy of the GPS is, I think in the first one I tried to submit, I think I used Google Maps or something to get my GPS coordinates, and it had, I think it was probably to 6 digits. And I put them in, and it's like, nope, that's not good. That's not correct. It's like, what do you mean that's not good? You want it less accurate than just like the default for every GPS app out there? It's like, go through all the coordinates, delete 1 digit from the end. It's like, oh, now I'm happy. It's like, you couldn't have just ignored that last digit if you didn't care anyway?
They have to, hitting that delete key is hard
Right.
work, Dan,
So-
and it probably costs the government $100 per keystroke.
So I have to say, in the FAA's defense, I mean, it's been a challenge to get here, but over the last couple months, they have been responsive. They have turned around applications quickly, and as we've mentioned, they have they call it an RFI, request for information. It's curious that they call it RFI, but they come back to us, and instead of just saying denied, and you have to play whack-a-mole like we did in the first couple months, what did they want? What is it over here? Is it over there? They really are. Their questions are reasonable. The request for additional information is very reasonable. The responsiveness from the folks who are turning these around for us is fast, and we're appreciative. And so it's a different process than it was a year ago.
Yeah, and I mean, if anybody has had any experience requesting waivers or anything like that in the past, that was that level of whack-a-mole, right? You'd submit it, they'd deny it, and wouldn't tell you why.
Yeah.
And so
warmer.
And so here's the thing is with the RFI, and this is something we talked to the FAA about, they are not going to specifically tell you what they're looking for, but they are going to ask you questions to help kind of get you pointed in the right direction. Because here's the deal is it's not on them, nor should they be telling you what to do in order to get approved. It's really going to set the use case, right? So
even though they made it all up, and they're the only ones who know.
And they've provided an exhaustive document. It's Advisory Circular 89-3. So if you're interested, you can go read that. We've got that, a lot of the high points of that committed to memory. So you'll hear us, in the dialogue on applications, ask for try not to have your FRIA be over people. That's a big one. So if it's where people are walking back and forth, don't put a FRIA there. Not try to describe the FRIA so it's not over buildings, over roads, over structures. So wherever there are things or people, avoid it, and then that'll help us a lot.
And if it looks like on Google Maps that there are things or people, you got to say, hey, there's no things or people.
Right.
Well,
right.
There have been some approved with some buildings and whatnot in them. You just have to justify why that's the case and why it's okay.
Yeah, just describe the situation. If you got a parking lot in there, say there are no cars present in this parking lot during flight times and applications it's only used at certain times, however you want to say it, right?
Or hey, if there's a walking path through there, hey, we utilize visual observers 100% of the time that will redirect either the pilot.
You're just trying to get somebody reading it who works for the government to go, yes, this seems reasonable. and we
Right.
can
Yes.
avoid this part of the rule.
And I think, was it Alex or you, Dan, that described a large park, and they said, what we're doing is, we'll arrive at the park as a group of individuals, and where there are not people, we'll fly. So we're asking you to grant us the freia for the entire park, but we're not going to fly if there are people. And the FAA was okay with that. I mean, it was. No,
I think Alex must have mentioned that, but that's definitely how lots of FPV pilots operate. You go to a park and
Right.
you find a
Unused
corner
section.
of it that's empty of people, and that's where you fly.
Right.
In another way to put it, you need to provide plausible deniability for the person who's doing the application and accepting it to go, they said they were safe. They said they avoided all these rules, so we're good to go. That doesn't matter if you know what I mean. It's all up to how you state it.
Yeah, you got to think,
Right.
well, if I was this person reviewing this application and I get to go home if I just deny it, make it hard for them to just say, oh,
Make
just
it
reject it.
exactly. Make it easy to accept. Make it easy to accept. 100%.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, and as I said, as we said a year ago when this just started, it was frustrating because it was just deny,
Yes.
and it really was guessing.
Or just
well,
sit in limbo for 8 months, right? So
yeah, like mine. Yeah, I think
Dave's
I now
just go to
hold
the spam folder.
Yeah, that's right, Dave. Who? So I think I'm out on the tail condition on the median time turnaround for free applications. I own both tails at 8 months and 2 days.
all right,
But
Valenti, you got
they're doing a
anything
lot
for us
better.
tonight?
Nope, nothing.
All right, Dan, anything to wrap us up, sir?
No, nothing new in the past 2 weeks. Sorry.
Well, that's all right. All right, guys. So thank you all for joining us tonight. I think we'll wrap up 4 minutes early, not too bad. And thank you for the lively discussion tonight. I think it was definitely a fun time, if not a controversial one. But, at the same time, we're here to provide information and kind of discuss this stuff. So, with that, I think I'll give you back your night. And thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you all again in another 2 weeks. And have fun. Have a great night.
Fly so high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.